friends. Hello, welcome to Sunday Brunch right here on Love Wrestling. Thank you for joining us for what is the many of umpteen streams we have been doing here on the site over the last little bit. Whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook Live, thank you for taking the time for joining us, especially again when there's so much great wrestling content out there right now. However, we couldn't miss out on the opportunity to bring you what has become a staple, one of the most fun parts of not just WrestleMania week, but of Love Wrestling's little group, little crew that we've got going on here, getting together with some good friends just to shoot the breeze about professional wrestling. And who better to do it than the two, I suppose, staples of the Love Wrestling Sunday Brunch, as well as some new blood in here and a guy that we also have had on some streams throughout the week here. Mighty Joe, I'm going to turn to you first, man. Like clockwork, let's go clockwise. You have been here since the start, man. How are things? How have you enjoyed WrestleMania week so far?
It's good to be back as always with you guys, and for WrestleMania so far, I gotta say, it's exceeded my expectations. Now, having said that, my expectations were fairly low given the lackluster build coming up to it, but it has, like I said, it has exceeded my expectations. It hasn't been terrible, so I'm not Angry Joe today. I'm just Mighty Joe.
Hasn't been terrible is about the best endorsement we can possibly give anything, including Love Wrestling Sunday Brunch. If you guys think we're not terrible, of course, I brought up the social media banners on the bottom there. However you choose to support, we appreciate it. If you want to head to any of those links and support outside of the video content we're providing over the next little bit, feel free to do so after this stream. It is thoroughly appreciated. Give a quick shout to some people in the chat before I hop on and ask Parrish how he's doing. JJ, it's good to see you. Saw you in the comments of the Fightful stream last night, and always great to see you in the comments here. My friend, if you guys want to support a great person in professional wrestling, he is one of them, someone who is a great supporter of not just ourselves, but as I mentioned, a lot of great people in the wrestling community. That Canada dude, Andre, good to see you back. I love brunch myself as well. I've actually got a little snacky poo set up here for when I provide a few of my exclusives, as we tend to do during the show here. Wrestling Plug Inc. You guys saw him last night on the recap. I believe you guys are going to see him tonight on Love Wrestling Reacts right after night 2 ends. Good to see you, Stud Day Brunch. I'll take it. And Ed, a newer friend, but one that we thoroughly appreciate. He's been here every day since Thursday, joining us off of one of Tom's raids and continuing to tune in ever since then. Thank you for showing up, my friend. We are here to not only chat WrestleMania Night 1, but we are here to chat WrestleMania week. There have been a lot of great things going on. And Parrish, I'm going to turn to you next first. How are you doing, my friend? And second, how have you liked the entire week surrounding the show of shows?
Well, I've only seen 2 out of the possible, 4, if we're just going WrestleMania and TakeOver.
132.
I've only seen TakeOver Part 2 and then obviously last night's Mania Part 1. So, I mean, I enjoyed Mania yesterday. I still want to know what in the blue hell it was that Mandy Rose tripped on. Because that was, I mean.
First step to doozy.
Right. I mean, got to watch out for that blue line, right? No, but I thought WrestleMania last night exceeded kind of the expectations. It was a pretty bad build. I do hope that next year it's better and better. Just kind of like in that long haul, like maybe they take a little bit of an added venture of hey, once SummerSlam's over, we start putting in those Easter eggs. I mean, I miss that. Maybe even less pay-per-views. Maybe just bigger events, less pay-per-views.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there at all. Excuse me. I think that having Fastlane was a bit of a misstep, in my opinion, right in between. I really like what they did with the event. I thought that the event was fine in and of itself, but having it there when you are trying to build to the show of shows, when admittedly, even up to that point, it really hadn't been the best, perhaps. Could have been a huge, huge benefit to be doing a little bit more with it. Goose, you were live, you were bad, you were nationwide, you were giving your thoughts last night on Love Wrestling React. So you talked a little bit about night 1. You guys can catch the replay right here on Twitch if that is where you are watching. Give us a little bit on your thoughts on night 1 and then obviously WrestleMania week as a whole, friend.
I thought night one was overall, I mean, pretty good. Other than like say the 45-minute rain delay off the top. Again, I do feel like the WWE is never ever going to run an open air stadium ever again. I mean, can you imagine had WrestleMania last night not been like just on Peacock or the WWE Network, which is like, what, $5 to $15 a month, depending on where you live, and was like an actual $50 pay-per-view, like that could have been really rough. And had the weather delay gone even longer or canceled the entire show, like it could have been really, really bad. But I think overall, like once the wrestling actually started happening, there was some pretty good stuff on that show last night. Like the Cesaro and Rollins match was fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Bad Bunny tag team match was really, really great. And so was the main event between Bianca and Sasha was just amazing. I mean, one of the things I don't think we even like really touched on last night that I did notice was that I was very happy there was fans back in attendance in the crowd and stuff, but I did notice that people were definitely not standing 6 feet apart, and there was a lot of people with no masks on. So hopefully this doesn't
leave too.
Anybody getting sick.
A lot of people did leave too. So that's one thing to make note of, Spencer.
No worries, but you can't when there's quite literally a hurricane warning that delayed the show, you can't blame some people for it. I got to sit third row at an AC/DC concert here in Edmonton, Alberta, in I think 2007, 2008, because same thing, thunderstorm happened. A lot of people ended up leaving despite how great the event ended up being. You can't blame people for not liking the rain. It is what it is. I'll give them some sympathy there. Got to throw some shouts to our friends in the comments, though. Of course, Reese on Wrestling. Hello, gents. The Canadian Goose equals ratings, and both of the gentlemen will equal ratings at the end of the month when both Reese and the Canadian Goose join us, as well as Lawrence, on our Champions edition of Quizplex. We'll be talking about that a little bit later on in the next few weeks. So we'll hold on to that one for a little bit. But Goose versus Reese coming up. You want to talk about ratings? There is a WrestleMania feud in the makings. Hunter Ridge Farms hopping in Mania Day Part 2. I am excited. This perhaps was the night that I was most excited for when I was looking at both the cards right off the bat. There's just a lot of variety on this night. There were a lot of just personal favorites when you look at stuff like Owens versus Zayn. So tonight's going to be absolutely great. Then we've got another feud starting in the comments there. Kyle again. Oh, no, this is going to be a disaster from Andre C. Of course, just kidding. If you're going to take shots, though, you got to be able to give them sometimes. And I know we take a few pokes at people here. It is all in good fun. The Canadian Goose equals ratings. That's what we're going to go with. Jude Dawkins, the Cheetah Bear, hopping in. A lot of handsome faces here. Now, another feud that's hopping up in the comments here. May 28th, Jude Dawkins, the Cheetah Bear, who, if you guys are watching on Facebook Live, hop over and give him some support. But both he and Chris Parrish, who you guys are seeing on screen, as well as Michael Richard Blaze, will be taking part in Best Entertainment Wrestling in Red Deer. Of course, that is restrictions pending, but as of right now, the event is a go. Make sure you guys get your tickets. It's going to be a real good one, especially when you've got two high-quality individuals and high-quality pro wrestlers in Parrish and Dawkins. Of course,
I got from Best Entertainment Wrestling. The promoter came to my house and took the belt away from me.
Stripped of the title. That's some heel heat right there, Kyle. We're building everything for you right here on Love Wrestling Sunday Brunch. But of course, if you guys want to talk about Albertan professional wrestling or anything that's happened in WrestleMania week, that is what we are here to do for about the next 50 minutes. Because not only has tonight been great, I think the only real misstep that we've had over the last week or so, at least WWE specific, I wasn't a huge fan of Monday Night Raw this week. I really wasn't a big fan. I'm not going to touch on too much as far as that goes. But I think the rest of the shows themselves, whether you look at both nights of Stand and Deliver, whether you even look at SmackDown, yes, I will just caveat with the critique of I don't like the fact that they hosted the WrestleMania edition. Everything's been pretty good as far as wrestling-wise and even as far as storyline-wise. I like what they did last night. Goose, because we went to you last as far as the opening comments, give me your thoughts. What's the first thing that comes to mind so far when I say great things that have happened this WrestleMania week?
Sasha and Bianca, I thought was absolutely fantastic. Like those
I
girls
agree.
really, really busted their asses. And like I applaud their cardio because like they were nonstop the whole time. And it was
Mhm.
really, really good stuff. Really good. I mean, Takeover. I saw the first night, and I thought there was some fantastic stuff going on there too, for sure.
Oh man, I will be talking about Takeover Night One a lot. I absolutely loved the show, but I have to agree with you. I think that there were. The first thing that comes to mind for me was Seth Rollins and Cesaro as the match of the night, as far as the technical standpoint goes. Number two, though, and the other point I've got to make is that for me, Sasha and Bianca was definitely the match of the night, just purely for the emotion behind it. Even just seeing both of them staring down. And I think they did a really good job of playing up to both the heel and face dynamic when they were doing this, too, which was cool. But even seeing them stare down and take that moment and look around and recognize literally the history being made behind it. I think the emotional weight obviously adds a ton to any professional wrestling match. So while for me, I think that Cesaro and Seth Rollins was maybe the technical match of the night, Bianca and Sasha Banks was the match of the night for me. And I would go so far to say it only has one real competitor for me as far as like match of the week so far. But we'll get to that in a second. Sorry, Goose. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that it was like the one match on the card that I felt like wasn't built up with like really dumb comedy. Like
that's a fair point to make too.
Yeah.
There were iterations, and again, I'm gonna give the asterisks of I don't like that they were forced to coexist and go through that storyline. But you're right. Even when they were doing that, there were those teases of tension. There wasn't, the game show that I know you weren't a fan of, and I personally wasn't as well, that the New Day and Omos and Styles did. But they did manage, whether you loved it or not, because there were certainly points I didn't. They at least managed to make it a feud the whole way through, even when they did the coexisting stuff. Joe, I'm going to move to you next year, but of course, got to give a shout out here to Ed. The fact that they could put the emotions behind them after a couple minutes and then deliver a 5-star match was unreal. Bang on. And not only just put the emotions behind them, but I don't like the phrase because by no means have I been in the ring, so I shouldn't be talking about things properly, quote unquote, but they put the emotions behind them, but they used it properly. Like I said, like watching Bianca take that second and like literally tearing up at the start of the match, and watching Sasha do the same, but look around, but with like the very heelish determination that she's shown over the last few weeks, I thought was an absolutely fantastic touch. So Joe, sorry, I've kept making my points on it. It's because it's a match that I've really loved, as far as not just this week, but this year. However, I'll shut my big yap and move on to you. What have you liked this week so far?
For me, I think Takeover was kind of the real highlight for me. But I mean, if we're talking from WrestleMania from night one, I mean, my big takeaways from that are, first of all, that Bill going up to that cage match with Shane and Braun, I thought, basically calling Braun stupid and then pouring green goo on him, like it just felt like something like grade 5, like something you'd see kind of like people in grade school kind of doing. But for me, the good stuff, I mean, just Cesaro and Seth Rollins, like for somebody who's a fan of the technical aspects of professional wrestling, I got a lot of appreciation out of that match. When it comes to the emotional aspect, absolutely, Bianca and Sasha at the beginning of that match said they came close to breaking kayfabe there. Even Sasha came close to breaking character. Like you can tell, like she was really close. It was a real emotional moment, and they pulled the trigger on it. They put the title on Bianca, which I was half expecting, but also half not expecting. I thought maybe they would have held off, but props to her. They did it in a cool way. I definitely appreciate the way that they did it. I mean, watching her every time I see her in the ring, I'm always impressed with her physicality and her athletic ability. It's really impressive.
When she was carrying Sasha up the stairs, that was nuts.
You tell she's somebody who really puts the work in.
Yeah.
Really
I completely agree. And like you alluded to there, Joe, I think that it really could have gone either way in the best possible way. I would not have been upset if, like you and I have talked about in sort of the chat you and I have going on, I would have liked to have seen as well if Sasha had retained this, whether by hook or by crook, and carried this on to SummerSlam when maybe you do have 50,000 people in there rather than 25. I'm just happy that, and I've said on a couple of streams before, this had to end, whether it was now or whether it was later, with Bianca coming out on top. I was thrilled at the WrestleMania moment she got. A couple things I want to shout out in the chat, Parrish. I'm going to buy you a couple of more seconds to get your stuff in and get your thoughts in for a sec here. JJ hopping in. The build towards Mania wasn't really interesting. The wrestling was going to be good because of the talent, but when WWE really wants to, it can be entertaining. I agree. I alluded yesterday, actually, in the pre-show, the POS show. WrestleMania 30, I felt, was very, very similar. Whether you consider it the best Mania of all time, like I do, or whether it's a favorite Mania, or whether you're neutral on it, I think a lot of individuals that can agree that outside of the Daniel Bryan stuff, there wasn't, it wasn't as hyped as I think it should have been. The build perhaps wasn't as good as it should have been. And then they went out and delivered a classic Mania. And if tonight delivers, I think it'll be the same situation as looking at WrestleMania 30, including, and I'll give you a little teaser for the prediction show here in a little bit, ending with Daniel Bryan, a WWE champion. Here's what I want to throw out there real quick. Would you rather take a chop from Walter or a hair whip from Belair? Before last night, I certainly would have said Belair, and after yesterday, I'll say I'll pay to take neither. Parrish, I'll let you open on that one, man.
I'll take both because I'm not a snowflake.
Oh man, I am fully willing to admit I'm a snowflake. I wouldn't take either. I wouldn't take either well.
I don't know. I don't think that hair whip thing is like. I feel like they added a sound effect or something in there. It's not like it's obvious.
That got thrown
in, but there's no way smacking somebody with your hair makes that noise.
I don't know,
dude.
I saw the well open.
That. It cut her open.
Exactly it.
If that was something they did during production, they nailed the timing on that, because I mean, you would have had to have been like expecting that to be right on the money with that sound effect.
I'm going to hop in with this one. Any good indie shows today for brunch? Admittedly, we're going to be talking about a couple in the later days coming up here. We have a GCW specific stream coming up in the next week because admittedly, I am so excited for the show. I haven't had a chance to watch a ton of it outside of a little bit of hot girl shit and Bloodsport, but hoping to get caught up on that, hoping to have a couple of cool individuals lined up to chat with me on that show. So I would recommend checking out The Collective. I know that's the easy answer as far as it goes. Bloodsport's been fantastic. So for the one that I did want to highlight, something that I'm very, very excited for, is a burgeoning deathmatch fan myself. Nick Gage versus John Moxley is going to absolutely tear it up. That is something, friends, that I cannot wait for. Sorry, Parrish. Let's hop back to you, my friend. Things that you have liked so far about WrestleMania week.
Well, I'm gonna just go with because I have a 5-point things of takeaways from WrestleMania last night. Number 5, I actually really enjoyed the opening match between McIntyre and Bobby Lashley. Yep. I thought they told a good story. The one thing that I'm taking away is MVP did his best job of being invisible that entire match. And if you're gonna be a guy in the corner of somebody, at least make it sound or look like you're present, because that to me was a big takeaway in that match, that I did not think MVP was even around.
Right.
And I thought that was a mistake. I thought MVP could have played a little bit of a bigger role in that match.
Okay.
Instead of just the finish.
Really weird, his distraction. We covered it last night, but I thought it was really weird.
He literally yelled lightning.
Yeah.
It was my favorite part of the entire thing. It's a cheap laugh, but I'm here for cheap laughs. I'm 100% here for cheap laughs in professional wrestling. But I think you make a really good point there, Parrish, in that if you want to be that distraction, you can't be present the whole time, because then eventually McIntyre would get used to it, right? So he wouldn't be as distracting.
That's true.
But I think part of the reason is maybe his leg, his injury kind of played a part of it. But at the same time, that's why I added saying visually or audioly, be involved. You see Heyman in the corner of Lesnar or anyone, and he's throwing out suggestions of what to do. He's making his presence felt. I just didn't think MVP made his presence felt enough in that match to make it look like it was kind of like a heel dynamic. Going back to that, I don't think Sasha Banks was a heel in that match, and I think that would have added into the build and in the match delivery. I do still think Sasha Banks is a babyface, and I thought that in a weird way that actually does take a little bit, even though that match was absolutely amazing for so many other factors as well. I did think the fact that you just didn't have that classic babyface versus heel really took away from the build.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you there. I think that they could have done like that. That's where the sole issue I've had with it is that whole can they coexist? I think it was ridiculous that they tried to do it with them, to be honest, because they were on the right track with it until they started to insert themselves in the title scene. There was a lot of heat behind that feud coming out for the couple of weeks right after Royal Rumble. And then they inserted. I don't understand it. I really don't. I don't want to see anybody who's about to fight each other try and coexist.
They're going to be a tag team eventually. Watch out.
If that moment solidified Sasha as a heel, I thought it would have gained a lot more traction than it did.
Yeah.
My third takeaway was that Cesaro finally gets his moment. Yeah. And I think that's a big one because I think we all wanted Cesaro to finally have that trigger just put on him. And I thought that he delivered, and I thought Seth Rollins made him look that much better. And I think that match is, even though like we look at it as wrestling fans, it's like, oh my God, like that was a great match. I don't think it's going to get that much more significant by people because I don't think they understand just how important that match actually was for the careers of both Seth Rollins and Cesaro.
Here's my prediction coming out of WrestleMania, and we'll talk about it on Monday for the Monday Night Raw stream. I think Cesaro's Bobby Lashley's next challenger. I know that like brand split, all of that sort of stuff. Coming out of WrestleMania, though, you've got the opportunity. I've always looked at Mania.
I may have tweeted that to you in the past too, by the way.
And if you did, then full props. We're both two smart, handsome gentlemen. But I do see WrestleMania at any point being like one of those logical changing points or turning points, right? If somebody shows up on a Monday Night Raw that was previously on SmackDown after a WrestleMania, I've got a lot of time for that because that is sort of the reset time for me. I've always hated how they've tried to like force in the drafts or this wild card rule. Those feel very heavy-handed, and that's why I don't take to them as much. But I do think that using this, like if Cesaro was to come out and challenge Bobby Lashley, realistically, and I love Drew McIntyre, and I want to see him in the title picture 24/7, and he's built himself to be one of those guys who can pop back in and out pretty well at will, I would think at this point. But I don't see him having a logical point to challenge Bobby Lashley again. He didn't really lose all that dirty. Yeah, there was a distraction, but it's not like it was incapacitating. Drew McIntyre made a silly mistake. I don't have a better way to put it as far as the story goes.
A good story.
Coming out and having Cesaro have that be that hard reset for the Raw, or I guess, the WWE Championship story. Too many titles. I'd love it. I'd absolutely love it. It'd have him as a good launching point. I don't want him to just go after the IC Championship. Big E and Cesaro, both as baby faces, has me scared that they would turn one of them in the process of that, which would be unfortunate for both of them at this point. Give Cesaro that
more down for that than Corbin. Sure.
I think we can all speak to that, and I do give that again. I'm not as low on Baron Corbin as a lot of people are. I've got time for him as a wrestler, but I don't want to see him in that title picture right now. Shout out to JK. I'm always going to shout out. I'm always going to shout out comments putting me over. Give Spencer the book. Make it happen. Yeah, I'll take it. Another good shout from Reson Wrestling in here. I'd have liked MVP to use his cane on Drew rather than just shouting at him. I agree. I do. I do.
Again, some old school stuff there. Yeah,
it's gotta be Kane.
The literal
like something physical. Like there should have been like a more like, because like I said, there's like 25,000 people there. Some dude yelling something distracts you. Like you must be a shit wrestler if people yelling distracts you, because like, I don't know, but like when I'm wrestling, I like it when people yell shit.
Right. I completely agree. Now, Paris,
great. I will yell that to you next time in the ring.
Now, Paris, I know we've cut your time a little bit here, so I'm going to let you get the last words, your last couple of points in before we head to a quick break here on Love Wrestling Sunday Brunch. We always want to highlight the great content we've got coming out here, and I know that between myself, Parrish, and Goose, as three Albertans on here, and Joe is a Canadian. We all have a soft spot for the Hearts in our life, and last night, one of the highlights of WrestleMania for me, as brief as it is, seeing the British Bulldogs family come out and make their appearances on the stage, getting the opportunity to honor a guy that I think a lot of us have no issue saying is a professional wrestling legend, someone whose induction was long overdue. So I had the opportunity to chat to Georgia Smith a couple of days ago. I launched that interview on Monday, just prior to the Hall of Fame inductions on Tuesday. So Parrish, after you get your points in, we're going to take a quick break here on Love Wrestling. We want to make sure you guys have the chance to get your refill, but those who don't take the chance to get their refill, we want to make sure you've got some great content while we do. So we'll play that highlight right after. Parrish, take the final words into our break.
I was also going to say, it's also important for a guy like McIntyre and anybody to have that one guy that maybe just always gets the best of you. Like that Superman Kryptonite story is always going to go well. But my fourth point is we saw a crowd again at a pro wrestling show. We saw how important they were. And what I actually liked is we always love wrestling when it feels real. A rain delay actually made WrestleMania just feel more real. And then when you added the fans back in, it felt like a great normal in a way, like you're actually watching something again. It was a very fulfilling in a positive way of just seeing that. But my biggest takeaway, and I've noticed just by a quick Twitter banter, that it's something that I don't even understand and I can't really recognize that well, but maybe it is Canada and it's not a bigger deal in Canada, in maybe the US, but the fact that two African-American women headlined WrestleMania, I think is the biggest takeaway. Even though in my eyes, this was always about a pro wrestling, it's always about pro wrestling, but maybe that's just my not understanding something bigger necessarily. But two African-American women main evented WrestleMania, and I think that's one of the biggest takeaways because it's never been done. Never before have we seen two people of color main event WrestleMania, let alone being female. I think that's the biggest takeaway here. And they not only did it, they smacked it out of the park. They hit a home run with it. And I think that's generally one of the best takeaways from this weekend.
Parrish, I never regret giving you the final word because that was very, very well put. We're going to take a quick break here. It's about a minute and a half for those who like to time themselves out as far as things goes. Here's that quick highlight I was mentioning from Georgia Smith. The full interview can be found on lovewrestling.ca. Here's Georgia on some of the potential plans that Davey Boy Smith had post-retirement from professional wrestling before his tragic passing. I highly suggest checking out the full chat. She's a wonderful person. It honors a great individual. Here's a little taste of her. Well, and I was going to say, I don't think it would be right if your dad went in traditional circumstances. Of course, we've all been waiting so long, and now we got to wait an extra year. Of course, he'd be a guy that everybody would just be so enthusiastic about, and there's no audience. But it's just so cool that he's going in, and I'm so, so happy for your family. I know I speak for a lot of Albertans here that I've spoken to that can also say the same thing. I know you've talked about your dad wanting to open a gym and wanting to run a wrestling school and that sort of stuff after retiring from wrestling. Do you have any more ideas on what he maybe would have wanted to do or how he would have felt about this honor?
He would have as well. He was actually in the autumn of 2002. He was supposed to do a tour in England. I think he was going to be gone for like a year, if not a little less. He was going to be doing that. I think he was going to be doing a lot of events, tours, whatever shows, because that's all he wanted to do was wrestle. Yeah, definitely wanted to open up a gym or a wrestling school. And I remember he was looking at properties. He was actually looking in Inglewood and Calgary at some spots. And I know he wanted to get into film. He really I think I posted his headshots and his media package that he had, but he really wanted to get into that or like stunt work, because he was like, I'll take the pain, I don't care. But those were the top things he wanted to do. I didn't see him really becoming like an agent or anything with WWE. But I think I would see him training the people at like the Performance Center.
There you are again, a quick clip from a wonderful chat with a great individual and someone doing an awesome job honoring one of the legends of professional wrestling. Yeah, it's definitely a soft spot. It's definitely a bias as far as most of the Hart family goes for me, but I think it's pretty indisputable, at least as far as Davey Boy goes, that the guy's a legend. It was long overdue, and it was great to see his family last night as part of the Hall of Fame inductions. Kyle, I know you and I were going to talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame ceremony, so let's maybe break it down just quickly here, because I don't think many of us were big fans, just not of the speeches, not of anything like that. They did a great job with those. Having the piped-in crowd and all of that was certainly an awkward thing for me to hear. What did you think about her, buddy?
I thought it was, super rough.
Yeah.
Did you know, here's just a little fun fact about the British Bulldog. One of his last match ever, one of the participants was Zach Mercury.
I was looking that up. It was his last match ever, and I cannot remember who the opponents were. And I wish I could put everybody over on the show, admittedly, but part of the chat I had with Georgia was about the last two matches that the British Bulldog had. As part of both of them, he did actually have the opportunity to team with Harry. He was 16, 17 at the time, if my math is correct and Georgia's memory serves her correctly, which I'm certain it does. Very, very cool again to get the opportunity to chat with her about those sorts of things. I'm going to tie one in, and actually it obviously ties me in with a great segue. You guys know I like to take advantage of those. And Maniac, don't worry. I know you're tuned in. Happy WrestleMania. Happy daddy-daughter date today. But I do have to throw out here, here's a great comment that I want to touch on first. Do you guys think that Harry shows up on Monday? And he's another guy that I would have absolutely no issue if he was to come in. You want to make a big deal of things, he would be a great next challenger for Bobby Lashley.
NXT, man.
NXT all the way.
You guys are
NXT.
both now. Do you guys think it's NXT UK, or is this going to be just traditional NXT?
Can I go first?
Go right ahead.
Mighty Joe, you got this one.
For me, it's North American NXT. I mean, Cameron Grimes, all the guys that he can match up over there. It would be much more a creative environment for him. If he goes to Raw or SmackDown, I see his stay being very, very short and him getting frustrated with the process very, very quickly. Yeah, just for myself, I think he's better utilized in NXT. He's more experienced. A lot of people realize, and he can not only put on some great matches, but he can help kind of groom some of these younger and up and comers.
He's quite literally been wrestling. He's quite literally been wrestling in some way, shape, or form since he was 8 years old.
If you want to see,
I've had a lot of conversations
really good
with
stuff,
people about stuff like that. It's nuts.
Yeah, and some of his really good stuff, like go back and watch his stuff in New Japan and MLW, even stuff with the new Hart Foundation. That stuff was fantastic. Just
man,
watch it all.
His matches in MLW, his match against Jacob Fatu was absolutely nuts, absolutely bonkers. But I could talk about that all day, every day. I'm a big fan of the MLW product. Parrish, let's get back to Vanessa's question with your thoughts on if Harry Smith, Davey Boy Smith Jr. could show up on Monday night, on Friday night, or as Joe alluded to on Tuesday night. I guess that's going to take me a while to get used to. By the way, I expect some sympathy for everybody as we adjust talking about NXT on Tuesday nights. So when I mess that up, call me out 2 weeks from now. Give me a little bit of a buffer.
I think that there's two guys that you can probably think that are going to make their, let's just say for the sake of main roster. I don't like that term. I think it's stupid. But they're going to make the jump from NXT to Raw or SmackDown. I think one is Adam Cole, baby. I think it's time. I think the fact that they wrote him off, I've always said publicly that one of my greatest memories of WrestleMania was after Brett won the title at WrestleMania 10 after losing to Owen. Owen is standing in that entranceway looking at Brett, being just celebrating with the title and always saying, it's always about you. It's still never about me. And I was just, as a little brother, I'm like, that is why I'm an Owen guy over a Brett guy. I saw the same thing with Kyle O'Reilly looking back at Adam Cole, who's being stretchered. And I'm just like, that was such a great bye to Adam Cole in NXT. I don't think we need to see Adam Cole again in NXT. I thought that was a fitting tribute of just boom. And maybe he doesn't go this week. Maybe you give it a couple weeks before, but I think that's a great one. Another one, I am not shocked if we see them on the Raw or SmackDown, is Io Shirai. I don't think you have to. I do think there's a lot of NXT left in her, But I believe that if you want to promote a female more right now, no one is hotter in the wrestling sense than Io Shirai is. I think she has been more dominant than anybody on the women's side in wrestling in the last year and a half. And that even includes like whether it's Asuka, Ripley, Sasha, Bailey, Bianca. She's been dominant that entire time.
Yeah.
I would love to see Harry Smith and Karrion Kross have a standoff
that'd be good
right away to close off Wednesdays.
Yeah,
I think that's a
really
feud
love
right
that.
there.
the only
I really
issue
love
with
that.
the only
I
issue
really
with
love
Cole
that.
going over to our SmackDown, I think Vince is going to look at him and be like, "But he's so small, pal. What are we going to do with him?"
Yeah, but you know what?
Yeah,
For
but
me
he
at
thought the
least-
same thing with AJ until he beat the piss out of the Miz. And you put Adam Cole in front of the crowd, and he gets more over than 90% of your roster. That is why he gets it through Vince.
The reason I have to disagree with you on that, Parrish, because the reason why AJ is now a Vince guy is because I can't remember the exact timeline, but I think AJ was actually in South America and somebody got hurt or injured, and AJ went out of his way to fly in to do like a last minute change. That is why AJ is a Vince guy, because
Wasn't that the Balor Bray Wyatt match a few years
That's
ago?
why he's a Vince.
Wasn't that when we finally got the best iteration of the Shield?
Yeah.
Ambrose, Rollins,
Time out, Spencer. Time out.
That's
you know what?
That's
Well,
why AJ is a Vince guy.
And I'm going to take the opportunity because we're starting to get filled with comments. It's a very good problem to have. But if we're going to be encouraging people to chat in the comments, whether it's on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook Live, I always want to make sure we're giving them great shouts, especially when they're good people. The only one that I do kind of want to gloss over here, and the only reason, Parrish, that I bring this up is if there was an opportunity to take shots at the Calgary Flames, I know you and I would probably be taking them. So we got to give a shout out.
Admittedly, last night.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I do have a lot of time for the argument on that being scheduled after Kobe Cave's memorial, but I don't want to focus too much on that, both on the fact that we're a wrestling podcast, but also it's a personally sort of tough one. So we're going to leave that one alone a little bit. However, again, in just the interest of fairness, if we're going to promote the Edmonton Oilers as a diehard fan that I am, we've also got to make sure we shout out when people rightfully come in with some critiques. Tom, a great individual. If you guys are watching on Twitch, and Tom, please let us know in the comments if you're streaming later, because you know us. Let's rate each other. Let's do good things for good people in pro wrestling. Hopefully, we see you a little later on in the day. And agreeing with Parrish, completely agree about Adam Cole. Continuing the feud just means covering the same ground. It's perfect as is. And I do agree with that. I've got a lot of times for a well-built long-term story, your sort of 3-match classics that you see between people, but I also do have a lot of time for leaving perfection as is. And I think that it was perfect as far as it goes in the professional wrestling sense between Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly on Thursday night. As a Kyle O'Reilly guy, admittedly, a good Canadian boy, Kyle O'Reilly. Big old fan, and not only him, but the match itself was fantastic. Yep. Sam, another great guy. Give him a follow if you guys are watching on YouTube. If you're watching elsewhere, please go over after this show finishes and give him some support. A great human being. I think I say it every week, but it just makes it all the more impressive when I do. I don't think he's missed a Sunday brunch, and that is like worth a t-shirt or some sort of special sort of merchandise, or hopefully when we get Twitch affiliate status and special emotes, something free or whatever else we can do here on Twitch for you, Sam. A great human being and definitely worth supporting. Kyle, we're going to move on to you as far as it goes, because I do want to make sure that we get the opinions of everyone here on Sunday Brunch. What do you think about the potential of Harry Smith showing up in the next week? Let's say we're not going to keep her Monday specific because there have been a lot of differing opinions.
I would love it. I think I got all the time in the world for Harry Smith. Of course, I ring announced for Real Canadian Wrestling, and Squig has brought Harry Smith in on a number of occasions. I remember there was a match between Harry Smith and Scott Justice in Calgary. And at one point, Harry got Scott Justice down and walloped him with a kick. And I was like, oh boy, Harry Smith knows how to wrestle. Harry Smith, he is really, really great. And
Oh,
yeah, I'd love to see him wrestle with Roman Reigns or like Edge or Daniel Bryan. I think he would. I think absolutely. I would love to see Harry Smith actually on like the main roster for sure.
I don't disagree with you one bit at all. Now, Maniac, I did say that we were going to answer your question, and as I vamp while I scroll through the comments, of course, feel free to continue offering yours in the chat wherever you may be watching. We have about 25 minutes left on Sunday Brunch, and then Parrish, Joe, and I actually are going to be hopping off. We will be preparing for the POS show. That will be airing at 3 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Eastern. That will be the official prediction show. So we're happy in. Thank you. I know I stumbled over it. Like I said, this is stream 12 in the last 6 days, and ladies and gentlemen, that'll continue over the next little bit. Like I said, at 3 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Eastern, we will be back here on Twitch. However, Parrish, you know what? I'm gonna put you on the spot then. Maniac throwing in here even before the commercial break. Opinion topic. What Mania had your favorite theme song? His was WrestleMania 27, Written in the Stars by Tiny Tempa. I quite liked that one, if I'm remembering the right one correctly. Admittedly, once we get past 5 or 6 years of things, excuse me.
This is easy for me, man. Easy.
Go ahead. I'll let you hop in.
WrestleMania X7 Toronto. Make me a superstar. Saliva. Most fitting music for WrestleMania.
All right. I'll fully give you that one. Joe, I'll move to you next.
Man, I can't actually. When I saw that, I thought maybe or talking like entrance themes. I actually don't have one off the top of my head.
All right. Well, I'm gonna. I'll give you the time here.
Yeah,
Mr. Canadian Goose, Kyle Shaw, honk honk honk. Your favorite Mania theme song of all time?
I love. The big time one. That was fantastic.
Sorry, you cut out for a sec there. Are you able to repeat what you said? Technical times, they call this in the industry.
I thought the Peter Gabriel WrestleMania, big time.
Oh, shoot. Which one was that?
That was 22. I was that one.
There you go. Great call. Oh, great call, Shaw. I forgot all about that. If anybody can remember the theme song's name, please let me know, because that would be one that I am 100%
big time by Peter Gabriel.
There we go. Thank you
I
very
was
much.
at that Mania, man. I was there.
Excellent. Excellently done. Oh,
you know
Shaw,
what?
Great call.
You know what?
There you go, Joe's got it.
For the case of simplicity, I will go with that one too, because that actually was a good one, and I'm gonna take the easy way out on that one.
Actually, I got another one that's actually really funny, just because of the name. Crack Addict WrestleMania 19 Limp Bizkit. Who, by the way, some of the best wrestling, like bringing in Limp Bizkit for wrestling music, top notch.
They
do.
Oh, man.
That was also a great song.
I ain't a big Limp Bizkit guy by any means, don't get me wrong, but as far as wrestling goes, they are a band that's very, very well suited to it. Ed hopping in.
Do it for the nookie.
He's hopping in. We'll take a second to recover. Talk amongst yourselves. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm loving me. Ed's hopping in saying WrestleMania 21 big time. I don't disagree with him there whatsoever. It's a solid call. I've got to go, and it's just because, is it my favorite song by any means? Absolutely not. But it's one of those things that has a lot of personal memories attached to it, whether for better or for worse. WrestleMania 32, Flo Rida, My House. Yeah. I will go with it every time. It was just one of those things, as I'm sure everybody has memories of wrestling as kids, as I do as well. It's just a good memory of like sitting down, watching wrestling with my brothers, having a few of those special adult beverages that a few of us do like to indulge in during a professional wrestling show. Just a good time. It's got that personal association for it. So yeah, I do know that I'll take those shots sometimes, except for from my friends at Hunter Ridge Farm, agreeing with 32. I quite liked that song. Big fan as far as that goes. The Judge Ben Omen hopping in and throwing Step Up from WrestleMania 20. That's a fantastic one. I absolutely like that one as well. Tom hopping in, throwing out. I got about 3 hours of sleep last night, man. I think that every wrestling streamer feels your pain on that one right now, my friend. I know I can at least speak for a couple of the guys here who were on last night's post show, hopping on her earliest show of the day. I feel that pain 110%. Hunter Ridge Farm, stay tuned to some stuff on Love Wrestling. Is PWA ever going to entertain you again? They 100% will, but I'll take this opportunity to plug our great, great friends over at Backbreaker Media. They're doing some great work in the Albertan professional wrestling scene, not in the past, but right now. Make sure that on Sunday nights, I don't know 100%, so I'll have to actually get some clarification before the next stream from our friend Mike the Ref, but they've been streaming some upcoming shows or some previously filmed shows in the upcoming future from the Clandestine Society. I know Parrish and Kyle Shaw, both who won their matches at Clandestine Society, can speak.
First match ever.
High quality of wrestling that they put out. Not only great professional wrestlers involved, but great professional people involved behind the scenes as far as that one goes. So yes, we all still have to wait, unfortunately, on the PWA, but we still got some great Albertan professional wrestling out there for you, Hunter Ridge Farm, and for everybody outside of Alberta looking to get some great stuff in. I want to take a quick minute and answer this question that Sam threw in there, because when we talked about the Clandestine Society, it reminded me that I've got another exclusive for all y'all hopping in here. A couple of days ago, it was pretty cool for me to hop on. My Speedball Mike Bailey is doing some great work on here on Twitch as well. Hopefully he's streaming today so we can throw him a raid after this as well. But a couple of days ago, he was doing a watch along of that previously mentioned Clandestine Society. So the specific exclusive I've got ain't quite a Clandestine Society one, but it is one that I'm sure you'll be entertained by. But the question that I want to answer first, and Shaw, I feel like we haven't turned to you first on a lot of things here. So Sam's asking, where do you think we will go with Bianca after that amazing title win? Number one, I'm just going to show some support. Yeah, amazing title win. We talked about it off the top. I'm going to talk about it on every stream I appear on for the next couple of months. Amazing, amazing, amazing title win. Shaw, where do you think Bianca Belair goes from here?
Well, I'd be very down to see like Bailey get some sort of involvement for sure. Also, like, you know, I'd also be really down to see, like, you know, Becky Lynch or Ronda Rousey come back and fight.
Good
against
call.
Bianca.
Sorry,
That's all.
I'm typing things out. I'm bad at multitasking. That's why I'm usually so good at either talking or answering the comments. Parrish, anybody in specific you think is going to come and challenge Bianca Belair? Maybe do you see a crossover from Raw the same way that I've talked about Cesaro moving over? Or what do you see happening for the EST of WWE?
I think if you don't do a rematch,
yeah, that's a good
I actually like if they don't do a rematch. I actually kind of hope it's somebody different. I wouldn't mind seeing Bailey, to be honest. If we're talking about somebody that could actually take a loss, make somebody bigger, I don't think you can look past Bailey. I think she's one of the best on that roster right now. We talked about yesterday who's the top of the 4 horsewomen. I kind of put my money on Bailey right now as being the top 4 horsewoman at the current time. But she is the complete total package in that. And I think we saw Seth Rollins make Cesaro a star. I think Bailey can do that with Bianca Belair.
Don't disagree is all. I've got to throw a shout out, and I'm trying to scroll back up to where it was because I got a good laugh at her. 6 rematches with Sasha before a feud with Tamina, says JJ. Yeah. You know what? I would have no issue, like Parrish was alluding to, and Shaw did as well. I'd have no issue with the rematch between her and Sasha Banks, even if it was the main event of SmackDown this Friday night. I think that would be absolutely fantastic. I think you do have to do that just because Sasha had such a great reign with the title. I know that automatic rematches aren't a thing anymore, but she would be one that if you were to imply that there was an automatic rematch stipulation, she's earned it at this point. I've got no issues with that whatsoever. Mags, it's good to see you, my friend. Look at these handsome SOBs. The same goes back to you. And the nice thing is I've seen your face a lot over the last couple of days, whether it be with Josh or otherwise. And I can vouch for you being a handsome individual as well. I'm again just going to suggest that if you're still in the comments there, Magsy, throw out where people can find you, whether it's Badlands or otherwise, because in the best possible way, you got too many great pieces of content to list in just one breath here, my friend. So feel free to promote yourselves. Feel free to shout out the great content that you guys have coming up in the next little bit. And as Reese was kind enough to suggest, if you guys are watching on YouTube, don't forget to like the video. It does help us bump up in that all-important algorithm that we like to talk about all too often here on Love Wrestling. But it would really be appreciated. Obviously, the goal is to chat pro wrestling with as many people as possible. We love chatting pro wrestling. We love pro wrestling, period. that was around before Cesaro stole our branding. Now,
Borrowed without asking.
Now, Joe, I gave Parrish the final word heading into our last break. So as mentioned, I've got an exclusive coming your way from my apartment into your guys' ears and homes via the Sunday Brunch. So I'm going to give you the final word on favorite WrestleMania theme songs, I believe. And then Sam, I see your question in there. We're going to get to the break, and then we're going to start on that one as well, because I like that question, especially given the people that we've got on the show today. So Joe, give us your final thoughts, and then we're headed to a quick 1.5-minute break.
I'll touch on that, and then just briefly on the plans for Bianca Belair as well, because I have a thought on that as well. For the entrance for like the WrestleMania themes, the reason why I couldn't really think of them is, in the earlier days of me watching WrestleMania, there never really was a theme for most of the early WrestleManias. That's why I had kind of a hard time thinking one off the top of my head, because typically it wasn't something that was done. We had you still had musical performances or whatnot, but. Yeah, I'm the elderly person in this stream here today.
Boomer Joe.
But and as for the plans with Bianca Belair, I do see a rematch with Sasha, and I do see Bianca winning that match. And when that happens, Becky is the one that shows up to challenge her.
I absolutely love that. We'll start diving into more future plans from the WWE, as well as the past week in WrestleMania, the show of shows, and everything else going on through the past 7 days in professional wrestling. But as I mentioned, before we get to that, we're going to take a quick break. Like I mentioned, we like giving you guys the opportunity to refill your cups, visit the facilities, or whatever else you like to do in 1.5 minutes. However, I personally think you'll be missing out if you take that opportunity. One of my favorite things while I was going through and falling back in love with Speedball Mike Bailey throughout this time in pandemic, where I know we've all been watching a lot of professional wrestling, perhaps some professional wrestling that's a little bit out of our wheelhouse. I had the opportunity to ask him about not only his first experience in professional wrestling, that was him getting to watch Kane light the Brood on fire, but I got to ask him if he ever wanted to play a supernatural character. Now, that necessarily isn't what we talk about, but we do talk about a time where he certainly played a character in the professional wrestling ring. Here's Mike Bailey on the one and only time thus far he played Shrek in cosplay and wrestled doing it. Stay tuned through the break. Well, and it's definitely something that you've done at least once in your career, and one of my favorite things that I've watched of you. Tell me about your experience wrestling as Shrek.
Yeah, that was the dumbest thing. I just made... Okay, I make a lot of really, really dumb tweets. Most of them are so dumb that they're not even worth tweeting, and they just live out in my drafts. And I show them to my partner, Veda Scott, and I just show them the tweets, and like they just go, haha, that's funny. You can't tweet that. And then it just dies. And I wrote one that was... tweet was just, if this gets 2,000 likes, I'll wrestle in full Shrek cosplay or something. And she was like, haha, tweet it. And then I did, and then it rapidly got more likes than I had asked. And then I was like, okay, I'll do it, I don't care. And then there was this place called Good Wrestling in England that were like, hey, we saw your tweet and we know you're booked on this show, you should do the Shrek match. And I was like,
we'll book you as Shrek.
Fine.
What a fantastic phone call to receive.
Right?
Are we going to see it again?
I have no idea. No clue. I have no plans to wrestle as Shrek again. I have no concrete idea of when that could or could not happen. It might. I mean, if people ask for it, I wouldn't be opposed, but
it is certainly something worth checking out. The one question that I will answer here, if you need a little bit more enticement, yes, he does enter to All-Star, and it is the greatest thing that I have gotten the opportunity to watch. And that says a lot, considering the high-quality professional wrestler in person that Speedball Mike Bailey is. I highly, highly recommend that you guys check that one out. It was absolutely fantastic. JJ, I couldn't agree more with you, man. Give Shrek a payday. I wish I had a pun ready, but I honestly, man, I popped when I saw this pop up in the comments during the commercial break, and I laughed too long to to get the opportunity to. Sam, Speedball is awesome. His streams are so fun. And again, I really, really hope that he's live and doing something here on Twitch by the time that we're signing off, because admittedly, I know I've said it a lot for a lot of you individuals who are tuning on in Twitch exclusively. I'm an old man. I'm really, really learning Twitch. I did learn how, however, because of the kindness of Tom Colhue and a lot of other great individuals who have hopped on and supported in the last couple of days, how to raid. So we're going to be about 25 more minutes here. I messaged in the private chat. We got a little bit more time to talk about great things in pro wrestling. But in about 25 minutes, if there's anybody near and dear to your heart you guys want to see rated, feel more than free to let us know. And if we're supporting great people, take a second right now. And there, as Mags had suggested, are all of the places that you guys can find him, at least on YouTube, on Twitter, on everywhere. Just search up those brands. I can personally speak to Mags. I can personally speak to Shooting the Sports-ish, and Chair Shot, where I know that Turnbuckle Talk. I'm so used to calling you guys Turnbuckle Rewind, so I'm sorry that I'll always stutter doing that. But Turnbuckle Talk taking place every Monday at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, 3 p.m. Eastern. Joe, I'll let you plug a little bit near the end of the stream as far as what you're seeing there and on Turnbuckle Rewind this week, because I know it's a very, very exciting match. But we're going to get back to talking about not only favorite theme songs, but a question that we had here from Sam that I know, again, there was a lot of talk here on Love Wrestling prior to the Bad Bunny match last night about not only celebrities in professional wrestling, but how he was going to do in the ring. And whether you're a fan of celebrities or not in pro wrestling, that's still a different conversation. I think it's pretty indisputable, and Parrish or Joe, you guys can pick up here, that he at least blew expectations out of the water last night, correct? Because what Sam's asking is, do you guys think Bad Bunny is having a longer run after a match like that? I think he deserves one.
Well, I think we posed this question yesterday, to be quite honest, on the POS show, that we did not know if Bad Bunny was going to continue with WWE after this match, or if his contract really was just up until Mania. To be honest, like I'll give Bad Bunny props on the fact that not a lot of celebrities stay as long in a run. They're usually more, I'll appear for this show, maybe that show. But from the sounds of it, Bad Bunny stays. He's put in the work. I'm actually going to give a shout out to this guy, Adam Pierce, along with Drew Gulak, because I heard they were the ones that actually helped train Bad Bunny and get him ready for his match. And I thought they did an amazing job. And I think Bad Bunny impressed a lot of people with his performance. And I honestly think Miz and Morrison hit it out of the park in the sense of how they played. Morrison was, I thought, a standout in that match to me.
Yeah.
But I really also like how Damian Priest looked. But I'm also going to give a compliment to Bad Bunny because he took the heat in that match and was very good. His selling was great. And that is why I think people cared about it, because he sold. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Hey, man, I agree with you. You know what? When I saw him start the match, I figured it would have been a lot quicker that he tagged out. But like you said, he was in there.
Better punches than Shane.
Actually, well, and you know what? Actually, I should qualify as well. My match time estimates are all thrown off after the post show last night, Joe, where you said that Cesaro and Rollins didn't even get 12 minutes last night and they tore the house down. So admittedly, I don't know how long this match actually went. I'm going off the 20-minute assumption, and I would say that Bad Bunny was in there for, at the very least, the first at least half, perhaps 3/4 of it as the official participant. And I think he did. I think he did a great job. Yeah, I think he was absolutely fantastic throughout that show. I think that I've got no other way to put it. He blew my expectations out of the water, and I would be as excited for another Bad Bunny match as I would be for another Pat McAfee match. I'm going to give him that. They were different matches. I know a tag match and a singles match are two different things. McAfee, by my money, is the best celebrity wrestler in at least the last 10 years to come in and put on a singles match. But I'm pretty happy. I'm confident that whether it's now or in the future, Bad Bunny will have another match.
For sure, I'm glad that he actually spent some time to train. Like Pat McAfee, we know that he spent some time working with Rip Rogers, which is, a fantastic person to learn from. So glad that he spent some time with Pierce and whatnot. I think if you are going to use him further, though, especially with Damian Priest. For me, like I've been a Damian Priest fan for quite a while, going back to when he was Punishment Martinez in Ring of Honor, and whatnot, and just knowing what he did, they're just like the real kind of badass he is. I think that if you are going to do this, and people maybe aren't going to like this, I mean, you got to have him turn on Bad Bunny and turn on him hard.
That's an interesting one. That's a really interesting one, because I think I even posed it to you, Parrish, on the POS show yesterday, where I potentially saw Bad Bunny turning on Damian Priest. And that's just personally, I'm in the same boat as you, Joe. I really liked him when he was Punishment Martinez, but I think at least when you look at NXT WWE specific, he's been a much better babyface since he won the North American title and really leaned into being the rock star of NXT and WWE.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
He's going to be a much better heel.
I agree that he's a great heel. So I'm not going to write that idea off entirely. Don't get me wrong. I just personally, I'm very interested to see him continue this babyface run, because I think he's done a great job of it. Kyle, I'm going to answer a couple of not comments, I guess complaints before we hop into her. Reese thrown in there. We're the exact same age, Spencer. Please calling yourself old. Please quit claiming we're still young. I don't know what Twitch is. I'm going to show a clip later where I complain about fireworks. It's literally old man yells at clouds.
That isn't music.
Skateboarding on the sidewalks.
By the way, for the record, the tag team match with Miz and Morrison and Bunny and Priest was just over 15 minutes.
15:05.
So I wasn't as far off as I thought I was. Kyle, I know you said him again last night when you were on Love Wrestling Reacts following the show, but give us your quick thoughts on Bad Bunny Bad Bunny and Damian Priest, I should say, versus the Miz and Morrison. And then JJ, I see your comment in there, and it's one that I really, really do want to get to during the show, so we'll make sure to answer that one next.
I loved it. I thought Bad Bunny did a really great job. There was only like one point in the match where I was like, oh boy, and that was when Miz tried to can Bad Bunny out to the outside, and Bad Bunny nailed his face on the ropes. I was like, ooh, that would hurt. Yeah. But props to him, because he kept going, and then he started doing dives to the floor and Canadian destroyers, and he did a great job, man, for sure.
I absolutely loved it. And I do hope he's got another match in him.
That bump to the ropes is something that you just can't teach.
Mike Bailey wrestled with Shrek. I would have loved to have seen Shrek on WrestleMania. I want Squeak to bring Mike Bailey to RCW so that I can tag team with Shrek.
Can you be the donkey?
That would be such good shit.
Oh yeah, can you please? Oh, Shaw, there's a petition. If we ever get this
Canadian donkey
off the shirt gimmick for sure.
If we ever get this one seriously considered, then I will sponsor that match. Whether it's whether it's Mike Bailey wrestling as Shrek or otherwise, I would love to see him come into Shrek if we've got the donkey in the professional wrestling ring as well, though. JJ coming in the comments. JJ hopping in the comments. Sasha is 6-0 at WrestleMania. When does she get her first Mania win? And that's a very fair point. That's one of the things that really leaned into me considering Sasha Banks as the winner last night rather than Bianca. Joe, you brought it up earlier too. The other thing that had me lean in Sasha's way was that I think that despite how great last night's moment was and was the right decision in retrospect, I also was of the belief, admittedly, before that they could have carried it on. They could have had it happen at SummerSlam and had Sasha have that 1-5 moment rather than 0-6. But
I have an explanation.
It's a great phenomenon.
I have an explanation for this phenomenon because outside of the Undertaker's streak, wins and losses do not mean anything in this company.
That's a fair point.
When you really, really look at it, the wins and losses don't technically mean anything.
With Cody Rhodes, where they talked about
in AEW, they made it a focus, but even in AEW, they made that a focus, but even them, they've kind of strayed away from that. But in WWE, the wins and losses, it's hard to argue against them not really making any difference.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there at all. Parrish, what are your thoughts on it? Because I don't think Joe's wrong there, but I also think that that's maybe not necessarily a inherently negative sentence, I guess. Like last night is a perfect example. Sasha did lose, but at the end of the night, does it matter? No, I think that both women Bianca definitely was the bigger person to get over. She got over huge, but it ain't like Sasha looked bad coming out of that. She looked great.
I'll echo what I said yesterday. The fact that we still consider Sasha Banks to be at the very top of the division, despite having a record where she has not won at WrestleMania, I don't think it matters, because it's the fact that, I think people want to make statistics a bigger thing than what they are, but Triple H doesn't even have a winning record at WrestleMania.
No.
Fair point.
But like, I'd rather be 0-6 and have 6 really good WrestleMania matches. And this is not a shade, but then Undertaker has his long record, and he self-admittedly said some of those wins were hot garbage matches. Like, I'd rather have 6 great losses than a match against Giant Gonzalez or Nathan Jones that made no sense. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
or technically against himself.
Yeah, like, we don't talk about how the puck went in. We just talk about the puck going in, right? And like, that's just the thing here. Like, we talk about who won. We don't talk about how they won, how they lost, unless it's part of the story. This is a story that can write itself down the line, because I think it's a very intriguing stat that you can use later. And I think if they are doing this intentionally, this is a genius move. But if they're not, then they have an organic storyline that is literally the best thing that can happen to Sasha Banks if by chance she gets to WrestleMania and has nothing. There's that, and always that.
Don't disagree at all. Kyle, I'm going to move to you on the final word as far as at least this goes. We'll get to our 1 minute or less segment, and then we're going to let people know where people can find us. However, that's pretty easy, but stay tuned. We'll have more places you can keep up with the interesting individuals here on Love Wrestling right after we get Kyle's thoughts on when, hopefully, Sasha Banks picks up her first Mania win.
I mean, like I was saying earlier, they could use that to build up to a match. Like, they could have some cocky girl come in and say, "Oh yeah, you think you're the best? Well, you never won at a WrestleMania,"
Yeah.
Like,
that's
they
fair.
could make that a big part of the storyline, like going down the road, especially now that like Sasha's been in, like, I mean, she is a winner. She was in the main event of WrestleMania, and she's like, nobody really expected like any women to ever be in the main event of a WrestleMania before, Ronda and Becky and Charlotte. And then there's on top of that, like, they're both Black women, right? So like, it's a big time deal for her. But like, yeah, if you want, you can build up to her next WrestleMania by saying, "Hey, look, like, you're the biggest loser in the history of WrestleMania." Like, that could.
Fair point. Well, and even JJ hopping in with a great point, and where we will close it off on Sasha as far as it goes. Quite impressive main eventing a WrestleMania and have never won. I agree on that, but I also do agree in the most positive of senses with the phrase. Wins and losses don't necessarily matter when you're putting on great matches, when you're building other people up, when you're doing great things. And I think that there's a lot of evidence to it, but last night for me was the hardest evidence that Sasha Banks is, if she ain't in the conversation as a Mount Rushmore talent as far as WWE's women goes, I don't know who else you consider. I know who else you consider, but I'm just throwing that up one for the further sense of debate. But we'll maybe talk about that on Love Wrestling Sunday Brunch next week. However, we're going to take off that we've gone a little bit over our time. Maniac already calling us out there in the comments. I know you're on your daddy-daughter date, and especially appreciative of the fact that you're taking the time to hang out with your family and tune in to Love Wrestling wherever you guys may be doing it, whether it's on Twitch, whether it's on YouTube, whether it is Facebook Live. We will be back in just a few hours' time. Parrish, myself, and Joe are going to be back, as well as another special guest. We're going to be previewing WrestleMania. We're going to be giving our official thoughts. We're going to be putting the Love Wrestling Elite Championship on the line. It's going to be an absolute blast. Make sure you guys are back here at 3 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be right here. Same bat channels that you guys are on right now. However, Kyle, I'll turn it over to you because you won't be here. Let's save the first. Let's save the best for first, I suppose. Where can people keep track of the Canadian Goose, honk, 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 on social media or otherwise?
Well, of course, my most active social media is Facebook, where you can friend me as... Oh, What's this? The host has unmuted. Oh, okay. Yeah, no. My most
We're live,
active
pal. Come on.
social media is Facebook, where just under my shoot name, Kyle Shaw. That's my most active. I'm also on Instagram. I believe it's the.canadian.goose. And then on Twitter, I am Canadian Goose KS. You can also make sure to check me out on the Backbreaker Media Network with Monday Night Shaw. Shout out again to Mike DeRef and the guys over at the Clandestine Society. There's some good stuff going on Backbreaker Media right now, so make sure to check them out. Also, like, shout out to Rich King, homeboy. If you want to get in shape and you live in Edmonton, get in touch with Rich King, because RK Athletics they'll whip you into shape for sure.
Oh man, I can speak for that, and I do say that as somebody very early in his own fitness adventure, but I can tell you, if it wasn't for RK Athletics, I would not be starting that fitness adventure. I was absolutely clueless. I still am absolutely clueless, but I used to be too. But Rich has been a huge help, not only on like helping me get physically in shape while we're doing personal training stuff, but empowering me. I said it earlier today, but really like helping me out in learning on the fitness end of things, which I can tell you as somebody who's sitting here across from all of you guys at 170 pounds, soaking wet, wearing boots. It was a lot less than that before I met Rich. So make sure you support not only great people, but great brands. RK Athletics everywhere on social media at RK Athletics 1. Parrish, I'm going to hop to you next. Where can people keep track of you, the creator of the parachute? Where can people keep track of you, the creator of the parachute, to do right by your finishing move, online or otherwise?
Well, you can hit me up at the School of Talking Right, where my number one student, Spencer Love, is actually failing the class. But you can follow me on Twitch at the Chris Parrish. You can follow me on Instagram at Chris.Parrish, at Twitter at Chris Parrish, and Hunter Ridge Farm. If you're going to make fun of my so-called pajamas, make sure that you actually use the upload display picture so we at least can make fun of what you're wearing. And you can also follow me in a few hours on the POS show Part 2 for the WrestleMania Night 2 edition.
Absolutely. And Mighty Joe, I know we will be able to see you on the POS show coming up in just a few hours. So, of course, make sure you plug that again. Repetition is key, but also let people know where they can keep track of you and what they can expect on this week's edition of Turnbuckle Rewind, coming out this Thursday on Love Wrestling.
Yeah, I have a lot going on doing this right now. Yesterday, doing 2 recordings. We actually recorded Turnbuckle Rewind yesterday, and doing the after show, doing POS today, doing the after show tonight, and then just all kinds of stuff going on. Turnbuckle Talk coming up on Monday, probably recording again after that. So it's a good time to be busy doing the stuff for Turnbuckle Rewind. This week, we have a good one. We're going to New Japan. This was actually the finals for the 2020 Best of Super Juniors from the Nippon Budokan in Japan. Hiromu Takahashi versus El Desperado. This is not only probably my favorite match of this current decade. This has actually made its way into my top 5 favorite matches of all time. It's in my top 5. You guys are in for a treat. If you have not watched a lot of New Japan Pro Wrestling, you're in for a treat, and hopefully this will make you a fan, because it is absolutely incredible.
I don't disagree. I am very, very excited. That's actually what I'm going to be doing in the intermissions between our streaming here on Love Wrestling, is not only watching that match, but getting the advanced scoop in on Turnbuckle Rewind. There are a few perks that comes with founding Love Wrestling. One of them is I get to tune into that content earlier than most. Joe, what you got?
Just briefly before I go, starting to get better at pointing at it at TB Talk Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where you can find the majority of what I've got going on.
Absolutely, my friends. As both Mighty Joe and Parrish mentioned, we will be back in just a few hours, a little over 3.5 hours. We'll be back with the POS show, not only chatting professional wrestling in a fairly loose format as we did this morning, but offering up our official predictions with the Love Wrestling Elite Championship on the line. That'll be going down again at 3 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Eastern. It's always a blast getting to chat pro wrestling with these guys, but it's also nice when you got a little bit of stakes behind it too. So looking forward to that, and hopefully looking forward to a lot of you guys hopping back in the comments for that one. Before I start plugging our stuff, ladies and gentlemen, we have Pokemon and Impact Wrestling that are live on my follow list right now. I don't want to raid any people who are huge drawers already. So if you guys have any individuals you are particularly passionate about, let's support some great people. We're going to be starting our raid here in about 2 minutes when I finish plugging the stuff that we've got going on here on Love Wrestling. The biggest that we've got going on, the push that we're really trying to make right now, is becoming a Twitch affiliate. All we need to do is average 3 viewers on Twitch for the next little bit. You guys did a great job of helping us out there today for everybody who tuned in. But if you're going to tune into any of our streams coming up today, twitch.tv/LoveWrestlingCA is the place to do so. If you help us out with that, it does help us monetize the channel eventually, which all goes back directly into the pockets of guys like Joe, Parrish, Kyle Shaw, and the rest of the great people we've got here on Love Wrestling. The other push that we're trying to make, not only because it supports us, but because it supports a great cause, head to ratethispodcast.com/LoveWrestlingCA. Not only does it help us out in that all-important Apple algorithm, but it also will earn 25 cents per review if you go through the Podchaser route of things towards Meals on Wheels. They do an absolutely great job of providing meals to people who do have a difficult time getting it in some situations. So if you've got the opportunity to help them out, if you've got the opportunity and would like to support Love Wrestling, it would be a great time to do so if you'd help us out that route. And then the last thing that we've got to strictly advertise for you guys before we sign off for the day, we've got shirts that are available through pre-order through the fine folks at Sea of Death based in Calgary. Feel free to head to lovewrestling.ca/shop for Love Wrestling shirts, for Love Wrestling masks, for Love Wrestling stickers. And if you want some Canadian Goose specific merchandise, feel free to head to prowrestlingtees.com. Look for the Canadian Goose's stuff. He's got 2 great shirts on there. I have mine on order, which I was really hoping was in by this point because I wanted to surprise Shaw on that end of things. Unfortunately, we'll throw that one out there. Jobber JJ will give you the shout out on Twitch. I'll say hello on here before close. See everyone later on the Twitch machine. We will see you guys later for the POS show, and we will see you guys here for the post show later on Love Wrestling. For Mighty Joe Morin, for Chris Parrish, for the Canadian Goose, honk, honk, honk. Thank you guys for tuning in to Love Wrestling. There's nobody that I've got going on for the raid, so if somebody wants to throw one in the comments while we are vamping, feel more than free. Otherwise, we'll see you guys at 3 Mountain, 5 Eastern for a grand old time on POS show. Yeah.